Everyone, I'd like to call the East Cocalico Board of Supervisors special meeting to order for Thursday, May 26th. Would you please stand and join me in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we all sit down, I'd like to observe a moment of silence for all those families in Texas. Thank you. Okay, this meeting was duly advertised on 5/22. As a special note, because this was a special meeting, we also did mail out to 16 businesses that use that intersection quite often an invitation for the meeting itself that are traveling through that area. And if my numbers are correct, we also sent out approximately 154 emails to contacts for those local businesses. So the purpose of the meeting is the roundabout study overview. I'd like to have this as a little bit of a interactive type meeting, a little bit more of an informal meeting, because really the intent of the meeting is to get the information out there to everyone, as well as to ask questions of our engineering team and get a back and forth going. The one thing that I would ask, please, this room's very, very large. Try to speak up when you're speaking. And the other thing I would please ask everyone is, it greatly helps us when we're doing the meeting minutes. Please state your names clearly, and then go ahead and ask questions, and then we'll proceed. Okay? Thank you, everyone. So I'd like to introduce John Schitt from Ritu, and also with him is Kittleson and Associates. It's Will Weissman. Did I say that correct, Will?
Will Weissman. Quite close.
Weissman. Great, thank you. Floor is yours, gentlemen.
Thank you, RC. Just some general housekeeping. Again, there was a sign-in sheet in the back. Everyone, make sure you sign in with your name. If you have an email address in your organization, so that way, again, when meeting minutes have to go out our correspondence, we can have everybody's name on the list. And again, as RC indicated, if you want to make a statement, ask a question as we go through this here, again, give your name, again, your organization. So if there's a specific question that we don't have an answer for tonight or something that I can specifically get back to you, and I know exactly who the question came from. Again, as RC indicated, I want to keep this kind of informal. I see a lot of familiar faces here from probably the past 6-7 months that we've made this presentation to the Impact Fee Committee, twice, Planning Commission, and to Supervisors. So again, it's good to see some familiar faces here. Basically, this project started back in 2017. Ritu was authorized to proceed with the study of the intersection of Church and 272. At that time, the township was looking to go after some Green Light Go grant monies to upgrade the intersection. They were interested, number one, was put preemption in their emergency vehicle preemption for a fire company. Again, that's the emitters that are on the trucks that trigger the lights that turn everything red, except for the way the trucks come in and they give them green. So as we embarked on that study, we went out, we did traffic counts. We came up with some analyses of what would be needed done there. Again, I think they were looking at more of a low cost type of improvement of upgrading the traffic signal to put left turn phases, really low cost. And our objective was to come in and look at the intersection, determine what could be done and what could be done. After we looked at the intersection, we realized that it was a much larger undertaking than just modifying signal timings or putting up left turn arrows. The alignment of the intersection east to west is somewhat offset, so create left turn lanes. It would take a major reconstruction of east to west to create those turn lanes, as well as north to south. Again, there's no turn lanes out there. There's a wide shoulder. People use it as a turn lane. We ran through the analysis at that point. It was determined that every approach warranted a separate left turn lane and a separate right turn. We did that analysis back in 2017. Those turn lane lengths were around 200 feet long each one. So again, we have our initial plan basically put together was show what the signalized intersection would look like. So and maybe take a time out here. I'll kind of give this overview, then I'll give some time for people to come up and look at these plans and then answer. We can ask any questions at that point. So I'm not sure if people saw these plans and when I go through and describe these, what they already might have some additional questions. So basically, that was the plan that was developed, similar to this back in 2017. As you can see, the light right here is the existing pavement. The black and darker color is what we need to be widened. Price tag of this project at that time was about $2.5 million. Basically, redo the intersections. We looked at different ways of, well, could we just build half the intersection? Could we just upgrade the signal? And once we start looking at upgraded, it's all we got to look at pedestrian projects. So we got to look at pedestrian crossings. So at the end of the day, it was basically an all or nothing type of project. At that point, we went after some Green Light Go grant money. Wasn't successful for it, again, due to the cost of the project. Green Light Go usually doesn't like to put money towards a capacity-related type of improvement. What I mean by that is adding lanes. They like to look at projects that maybe just upgrade the signals, updating of technology and equipment, but not necessarily building lanes. And again, that project would require quite extensive amount of road work. Basically, we went after a smaller grant, an early grant. It was successful to get the preemption emitters, and they were eventually installed out there. The project pretty much went into a hiatus at that point, and I guess probably about a year ago, it came back to life just because of the traffic congestion. Again, complaints from fellow township folks of delays, trying to make a turn out there. There's no arrows, safety of the intersection. We basically embarked on a follow-up study. We started the study back in October. Basically went out to do traffic counts. Before that, with COVID, everything was kind of, as you know, not normal. After Labor Day with PennDOT allowed us to go back and use actual counts rather than factoring the counts using COVID factors. So we did counts in October. Basically went through the whole analysis that we did from 2017 to come up with what would be needed. As part of an analysis, we do an intersection improvement. PennDOT has what's called an ICE form. It's an intersection control evaluation study. And what they do is they require us to evaluate alternatives besides just signalization at an intersection. And that also get roundabouts, other types of features. Again, for this intersection, it's mainly a roundabout to look at. Like the divergent diamonds, an example of an alternative, jug handles, other alternative type of treatments like that. So again, we went out, we did counts, ran through all the analysis again. The study pretty much showed basically the same design that we have here, except the turn lanes are longer. It was about 25 feet longer just from the growth of traffic over the past 4 years, 5 years. After that, our second alternative was basically to look at, was to do the roundabout analysis. And as we went through this procedure, we presented a plan, I believe, our first meeting, which is a preliminary kind of a high level look to see if a roundabout would work in the footprint and how it would function with the volumes. After we went through that, we made a presentation to the impact fee committee, planning commission, I believe, and the supervisors, and kind of got a straw poll kind of thumbs up to take a further evaluation of the roundabout. We brought Kittleson on. Kittelson's a world famous.
You go that way.
These guys are they're the gurus when it comes to roundabouts. Ritu has worked with Kittleson on several projects, both PennDOT projects. Kittleson's actually the engineer for PennDOT for central office. So any kind of project comes in with a roundabout, it goes to central office, and those folks. And Andy Durr, who was going to be here tonight, but he had a family medical emergency, wasn't able to make it. So Will came. Will's his right-hand man on the board doing the design work. So Will's kind of the guy that does all the work here. But they're the guys that pretty much review roundabout the state. They review, they critique it, they basically approve it on behalf of PennDOT. We've actually worked with Kittleson, with Will and Andy on 2 recent projects here. I think I mentioned this before, up in North Cornwall Township on Rockety Road and Colebrook. If you go up 72, you go left on the Colebrook, there's a new, or Rockety, there's a new roundabout that opens up there. And where's my, Perry County, 34, 850. We've worked on some up in Luzerne County. There's a lot of warehousing going in up there. District 4 loves the roundabouts up there, and a lot of the intersections are going in on these major corridors or roundabouts. We work with Andy and the team up there. Guys have worked on countless roundabouts throughout the state, throughout the country on roundabouts. So we brought them on board basically to help us refine our initial design. And again, these guys, they deal with the oversized loads, overweight loads, the types of design that we're, you're looking at the, with right turn bypass lanes, full configuration, the offset, the diameter of the roundabout, the inscribed circle bit, what that median looks like, what the pedestrian movements are there. So the next level is for them to do the next cut, which we put together there. Really, I guess, when we've talked about this plan before, that's why I'd like to either open up with some questions earlier or have you folks come up and look at it. There's a lot of questions and concern of trucks and movements of large vehicles through the roundabout. We were able to pull the information and it's available to the public for all oversized, overweight loads for the past 2 years that travel on all 4 lanes of the intersection. And I was, to be honest with you, I was pretty surprised with the amount of oversized, overweight type permits. Basically, north and south was oversized type loads. East and west was a lot of overweight type loads of grain trucks and things like that that needed special hauling permits for. I think we pulled, I think it averaged out to, it was 8,400 permits in 2 years going through this intersection of oversized overweight loads. That averages out to about 12 per day to go through the intersection. So again, that's definitely a critical element of traffic that has to go through, has to take into consideration for the design. What we found was the largest, I guess the longest load was really the modular type homes that get pulled up through there. Some of them, they're up to like 85 feet long. So again, that was part of the modeling here is as we break into a breakout session here, you'll see there's 2 exhibits that are prepared here. And we talked about this last time. This shows basically the truck movement with an 85-foot long modular. And the cabin area is modeled based on the type of truck that pulls that truck. So again, that shows the north and south movements of those particular vehicles. The other question that came up a lot was just basic tractor trailer trucks. 53-foot trailers, full sleeper cabs, being able to make turns, right turns from all the approaches. This plan here actually shows it's kind of hard to see, but get up here and see what the colors, all those trucks being able to make those maneuvers through the roundabout.
John, if you could, if I can interrupt for a minute.
Sure.
Could you highlight, when we talked about it, there were really, let's say 4 to 5, a handful of key bullet points as to why we decided to go with the roundabout concept in terms of the next steps.
Sure.
So for the public's understanding, can you highlight those handful of key items?
The first one was really safety. There were over the amount of crashes out there, 71% of the crashes that occurred over the past 5 years were angle crashes, basically somebody trying to turn left, either from the side street or from the main line, turning left and get hit as an angle, including one fatality. So that's 71% of the crashes are there. Again, the purpose of a roundabout is you're keeping everybody. As they come in, you're yielding to one lane of traffic coming through, you're making a right turn, and you enter the roundabout through there. So your only conflicting point is that point of merge of the yield and the traffic within the roundabout. The other is look at the truck traffic. Again, 8% of all the traffic that goes through this intersection is truck and bus type traffic. So again, that's a high percentage. You look at the volume of traffic on Reading Road, it's 17,000 cars a day. So that's how many cars go north and south just on that road on a daily basis. 8% of that is truck traffic. So that's a pretty high number. Again, the other thing too is it becomes a traffic calming type of fixture. You know, when you have people with red light, green light, you know, people running lights, this slows people down to, you know, 12 to 15 mile an hour basically to go through here. So you're slowing traffic down to get through. People are continuously moving through the roundabout. You know, you come up, you have to yield, you may have to wait for a break in the roundabout itself, but it keeps traffic moving. Unlike the intersection itself, if you look at those turn lanes, they're 250 feet long. That's a result because that's what the queue of traffic would be with putting a signal there. So you'd have to have protected arrows that you can only turn on the arrow, and then some of the movements could be permissive, but that's the type of storage you need with the signal operation. The other is pedestrian activity. So both plans show the orange. And the idea is to interconnect and provide this pedestrian link through the intersection and then through the intersection. You know, you're crossing this, you're crossing, you know, 6 lanes, you're almost like 70-some feet of pavement you have to cross to get from one corner to the other. If you look at the roundabout, you're only crossing 1 lane at a time. And you're only crossing one direction of traffic coming at you. So anywhere you go here, you get out to the splitter island, as you cross through here, you're only crossing 1 lane at a time. So you only have to get basically either 12 to 18 feet across that on the pavement. So pedestrian activity is pedestrian safety is another key issue with, you know, right here at Greenstone. The other, if you look at the intersection with turning, you know, or like, well, why can't we just redo the signal or redo the intersection? If you look at the left of these turn lanes, look at driveways, properties that are impacted by those. The cars are queued back here. Those folks aren't going to be able to make left turns into those driveways. They're not going to be able to make left turn on these driveways. By the gas station, there's 2 cars that's blocking the driveway. With the roundabout design, you can tell everybody still has free access to go in any direction without making a left turn. You go around left, you go north, you go south, you go east, you go west. On this direction here, across and go there. Every direction has a safer mover. We're going to basically cross on 1 to 2 lanes to go to the direction you want. So really, mobility, safety, pedestrian are really the main topics and the main reasons for the roundabout. There's a lot of other technical issues I won't get into. I mean, there's reduction of delay. What we're looking at, if nothing is actually done at the intersection, and again, we project our traffic up to 2041. So we took it out 20 years. So this design is actually designed based on traffic that would be 20 years in the future. So it wasn't based just on current counts. It's projected out 20 years. Again, efficiency going through the roundabout, reduction in delay. Like I said, if nothing is done, the average delay in the afternoon peak where the traffic is heavier is about 3 minutes per car, 194 seconds is what's calculated out to be. With the roundabout, basically the average delay drops to 20 seconds per vehicle. So you can tell it's because roundabout traffic is always moving. It's not sitting at a left turn arrow where you have a heavy movement. They have to sit there waiting for an entire cycle to get through. So it really reduces delay. Again, environmentally friendly. Cars moving, you're not sitting there queuing. Cars aren't running, creating emissions. The footprint, as you can tell, footprint for the intersection, it extends in both directions, probably 400, 450 feet, if not longer. And you know, the amount of pavement that's added for that particular versus the footprint for the roundabout. So again, it's a smaller footprint, less impervious area, less stormwater to deal with. Again, pedestrian friendly. Also, it's multimodal. We looked at one of these out in Anaheim Township, and we had a similar meeting like this and discussed it with Mennonite, some Amish folks, and kids on scooters, people on their bicycles, horse-drawn farm equipment. They were all very positive about it, you know, because with having a signal there, people don't yield, people don't let them in traffic, people don't, you know, cut them off, they're trying to pass them. If you're here to get in this in a single lane roundabout, it actually works better because they're in the lane and people therefore allowing them to yield into the traffic. So from a pedestrian point of view, kids on scooters, like I said, you're crossing a single lane instead of trying to cross 4 or 5 lanes to get across. So again, we've got a lot of positive, from the midnight Amish type folks on this type of configuration. Again, bicycle friendly, service life. Typically, a traffic signal has a life, I'll say 20 to 25 years is typically the lifespan of a traffic signal. Signals over time have changed. We went from incandescent, now we're on LEDs. We don't use loop detectors anymore. We use radar, we use video. So technology has changed over even 20 years of what's out there now. So just the change, and if a pole gets hit, anymore, a traffic signal poles upward there, $20,000-$25,000 for a signal pole. So again, there's a yearly maintenance that's usually involved with it. You got electric bills to pay. So there's typically a savings of somewhere, I would say, between $5,000 and $10,000 a year savings with roundabouts that studies have shown. Again, there is lighting that's here, so really that's your only source of electricity is lighting this up. The signals, you don't have maintenance, you don't have insurance costs of it. And again, the other reason with a roundabout too is you try to look at what the traffic flows are. You want to have a balanced flow of traffic where you have equal traffic east and west as you do north south. So putting a roundabout in that's just heavy in one direction and not a lot of side traffic doesn't really make sense. The signal may be a better alternative. So there are benefit cost analysis to do, as well as through the ICE analysis to determine when you put your volumes in. Does it make sense? Are the traffic balanced here? This intersection here is a 60-40 split, where again 60% of the traffic is north-south and 40% going east and west. So again, it's a good candidate because it does have a good mix of traffic. Also, again, high left turn traffic, U-turns. I believe it was 16-17% of all the movements at the intersection of left turns. So again, very high left turns. Definitely, everybody knows you need a left turn arrow out there, you need a left turn lane out there. It's not there, people are passing on the shoulder. So that's kind of some of the high hold items of this, of where we were to where we are now. I guess I can start with if somebody has some initial questions. If not, I don't know if everybody had a chance to come up here to.
Can I add one more to that?
Sure.
So the other thing is when we looked at that analysis, if I remember correctly going.
RC,
Yes,
can you speak up,
sure.
please?
Sure, actually, I'll do one better. So when we looked at that analysis also, one of the things we found was when you take a look at if there, correct me if I'm wrong, John, here, but if there's an actual intersection placed there versus the circle, if you're pulling out of the church or out of Redner's, and if there's an intersection there, I want you to think about this. You have a shoulder lane, you have a left turn lane, you have the center lane, you have a right turn lane, and then you have the opposing traffic lane coming in. When you pull out of that church or when you pull out of Redner's, if you need to go towards Denver, you are going to cross 5 lanes of traffic. Think about that. So that gives you an idea in terms of the safety margins surrounding the circle versus the intersection.
And to build on top of that, I think was, these are state roads. PennDOT has to approve the design. If we don't say what it is, it has to be approved by PennDOT. If we go with an intersection or this type of configuration here, PennDOT's going to say no. You're going to have to restrict that driveway to a right in right now. We're not going to allow people to turn left in there. We don't want them sitting out in the live lane of traffic that they can get rear-ended trying to turn in here, or somebody blindly trying to turn left out this driveway, not knowing what's coming because these 3 lanes are queued up for the stop. Likewise, when they use other approaches do the same, like the gas station from Riviera, for Cross Lane, all those intersections. PennDOT's going to come back in and make those right out. So again, all this information, all this analysis goes into what the ICE form looks at. Again, that's how it evaluates. This is a preferred alternative. Again, this is just us doing the analysis to get to different steps to determine what the best solution for the intersection. The design is not, I'm not saying it's final, pretty high level design. We put a lot of thought into it, put a lot of design into it, the design vehicles. So part of what you see here is pretty close to what it would be. Again, as you go through it again for these types of meetings here, stakeholder meetings, we may find something out that there's a load or something we're missing that we don't know about that, may need to revise, the design.
Thank you.
So I'll open up to questions, I guess. I'll start in the front, kind of work my way back, if that's okay? Yes, sir.
My name's Harry Rothenberger. I'm a general contractor. I live in the development up on the top of the page there. My concern about the roundabout is it's going to be a continuous flow. How does that pertain to the other roads coming in like Oak, Cardinal, and those there? When you got, right now with traffic the way it is now, over the last couple of years, traffic getting out of Cardinal, Oak is hard to get out to begin with, but Cardinal, it's been getting harder to get out there now because the traffic, there's more traffic there coming through. With the continuous flow, how's that going to work?
Well, yeah, as part of our analyses, and again, I didn't get into a lot of the details, we did a Q analysis. And a Q analysis is determining what the stacking of vehicles are back from the yield line. And what we do is we look at the 95th percentile. So we look at the worst case scenario, do the heaviest traffic conditions, what that Q would be. And for the PMP for that particular movement, you measure from here, basically 121 feet. So again, like you said, this continuously moves traffic. So with a traffic signal, I think when we were looking at the signal out here, we were probably about 110 second cycle is what would be needed, because with protected left turns, the arrow comes up, everybody else has red, it has to go through yellow, it has to go through red before the next cycle goes. So you have a lot of lost time of clearance intervals with the signal. So again, all that clearance intervals, we basically people are sitting there and traffic continues to accumulate to approach the intersection and sits there. So again, if you look at what those, in order to manage that queue, that's why we need 225 feet back. Because the amount of green time that we can get to this road requires 225 feet of storage.
So there should be spacing in between if someone's not making the right or the left to go to Denver, then there should be spacing in between that continuous flow.
Correct. And the other thing I would mention was if you look at the design, it has both the north line and the south line right turn bypass lane. And what happened was the volumes are right on the threshold of meeting where you need to have that extra lane to basically siphon the traffic off of the through lane. So it doesn't have to enter the roundabout. It siphons it off and it sends it on to church in both directions. But basically that allows those people to go here rather than have them be introduced, coming to the circle to make the turn. And then this person has to sit there longer because they're not sure are they going to go this direction or not. It peels off those right turns in that direction to help reduce that traffic load. It was only possible. Again, we're looking 20 years out. We want to make sure we have a design that works, well into the future. Again, all those functions of the bypass lanes, again, keeping traffic moving through here, it's going to reduce the queues.
John Summers, Summers Trucking. I've got a bunch of questions, but one relates to the statement you made on one of your reasons you went with this. And you said there's 8% truck traffic, which is higher than some, and you're using that as a positive to use this?
I think that, the factor of the percentage of trucks really goes into the design of it. As you can tell, this kind of has an oblong type shape. So again, it's taken into account that there is a high percentage of trucks, there is a high percentage of oversized loads. So that has to be a certain element that has to go into the design of it. I don't think that number is high for trucks going through there, but the type of trucks going through, the oversized trucks, make it so the design has to accommodate the trucks.
I thought you said that was one of your reasons to do this versus left turn.
Well, it does because between queuing, when you have high volumes of trucks and you have a signal and they're stopped between emissions for how long the vehicles are, it takes up additional space for queuing. So all that kind of gets plugged in. When you start calculating the queues out, you assume that 8% trucks are in the mix of traffic. So again, you have longer turn lanes. Startup time is longer for a truck to start when the light turns green. So you have inefficiencies of trucks. He's the third line and traffic goes and he's just starting to gear up. There's just lost time that goes into the traffic signal analysis of a signal when you have high volumes of trucks. So again, theoretically it keeps them moving and you're not coming to a complete stop.
I'll save one more now, then I'll save the rest for later. Is there if you would approve this tonight, is there a projected start and finish time for this project?
That's a loaded question. So you're saying if
I'm
all the
just wondering
funders,
how excited I should get about this, or if I'm going to retire.
young guy, you got a long time to go. Will, I guess from a project is, this is a type of project where it could end up being a PennDOT type project. And to go through that, you're probably talking a 3 to 4 year type.
3 to 4 year for design, going through any, if there's right of way involved with it, the stormwater
Right.
design, going through all the studies that PennDOT requires, environmental, historical, all that kind of stuff. It is a relatively lengthy process. And then a project of this type would probably be about a year to construct. It would be done in stages. Obviously, there's not a great some roundabouts, there's good alternatives for detours here, there's not, so we would look at doing the stage construction. So it would be maintaining traffic, but using flaggers during off-peak hours.
Yeah, the construction is definitely challenging, many stages, because you can only build certain quadrants at certain times, and to get the whole thing in. He's great at developing these kind of plans.
And I'll add to the one nice thing that would be with construction of this, the roundabout, how it sits is a little bit to the south of the intersection today. So a lot of it could be constructed without necessarily impacting the traffic as it is out there right now. And then, traffic would have to be temporarily shifted to allow for construction of other quadrants.
Yeah, so the 3 to 4 year period is a safe assumption for something like that. Again, there's right of ways involved that need to be done, NPDS type permits, stormwater type issues. There's just the PennDOT process itself takes time. Yes, sir.
My name is Glenn Hurst, Eagle Rental Center. I had another concern about the heavy truck traffic, because you pretty much talked about that, and it's gonna all work according to the way that you were talking. But what do you do with the stormwater?
Stormwater?
The stormwater, where does that go?
Well, again, we have to capture the stormwater in inlets. We may have to in certain areas where we have to create basins.
Do you need more land for that, or does that go directly to the creek?
Well, again, that's as you get further into the analysis, you look at what your pre and post development type storm areas would contribute to here, what you can capture as part of PennDOT. NPDS, they're going to require you to do certain processes of the stormwater. You just can't direct discharge into the creek. So again, there may be some areas over here where there can be some rain garden type things in the center along these edges here. So again, the water is definitely, it's curved. So it's going to collect in inlets and pipe it ultimately either to some sort of basin or some sort of, direct discharge down towards the stream. Again, that's
Like a retention basin?
correct.
And where do you put that?
Well, that would have to come in, that's definitely the low part of the ground. So it's gonna-
You have enough of ground to do that?
well, again, as we get into the next portion, if we, progress this further, start looking at stormwater, that's all part of it to determine how much right we would.
Another concern I have is,
And
what happens when there's an accident in the roundabout? Now, where does the emergency equipment, where do they park? Does that thing get shut down, or how do they handle the traffic?
Well,
If there's an accident?
I think like any other intersection, if there's a crash at a signalized intersection, the police want to get out there, the fire police want to get out there and stop traffic. I mean, safety is the first thing to, get the situation under control, keep people from driving through there, and they basically stop until they can clear the scene. So I don't see any real different of that versus a regular intersection. The one benefit is the roundabout, people are driving slower. So the severity of crashes are less impactful than somebody running a light and T-boning somebody. And like I said, you're moving 10 to 12 miles an hour through the roundabout. So typically your crashes are in high-speed angle crashes or rear ends. If somebody went to turn left, you get rear-ended. So again, that's part of the safety to improvement of this type of operation. It brings speeds down, it calms the traffic, and it reduces the severity of crashes or of injuries.
When you have a traffic controlled intersection, they can normally shut one lane down and go in the opposite lane to keep the traffic flowing. I guess I don't quite figure out how they do with the traffic continually going around the circle.
Well, that's, again, the fire police get involved, and, these are types of things, and Will, I don't know if you've had any experience with anything like that with crashes in them. I've never, to be honest with you, have been involved with, crashes at roundabouts, what they do, but I know from our local fire police, where I live, it's, control, stop everything, get the intersection under control, do what you need to do, and then, they flag traffic the opposing way, so they have people out there flagging traffic. So there is an escape route, to go possibly the other way, but it involves, the fire police doing the flagging.
When there's okay, go ahead. When there's an accident up on 222, that traffic comes down on 272.
Sure.
We live along that road and that gets backed up far. how's the roundabout gonna handle all that traffic coming off of 272? I mean, off of 222.
Just like anything else with incident management, I live off of 72 and the same thing, if something happens on 283, the turnpike 72 is the same way. It just has to manage its way through there. It's incident management. We can't design an intersection or a roundabout to facilitate if, there's a major incident somewhere to facilitate the traffic. I mean, if you did that, then 272 would be basically a 4-lane road. You go up and down there to handle the traffic, and that's just not feasible to do. So can't really design around that. You have certain programs set up. I know the traffic signals, they set up programs that allow the green time, keep traffic to flush, but then your side streets back up. So, you have to kind of control flow and let the incident clear out and then get traffic back to normal.
I have another concern is with that Redner's driveway with the roundabout. If they have a full turn, how are they gonna blend into the roundabout with a full turn? I mean, that's really close to the roundabout.
If you're able to, it's a full movement, they can make a turn into it.
What's that?
It's a full movement into their driveway. They can make the turn into it.
That's
I mean,
not an issue.
With the intersection, if you look at this intersection here, these lanes completely block off their driveway. So, and I'll basically say, no, you're not allowed to make a left in or left out. This is basically a right in, right out. At least with the roundabout, it's much more compact. Split our islands up further, you still have full access in there. Again, cars aren't stopped queuing back that are going to restrict people from being able to turn in or turn out.
With the Riviera and Sunoco, do they have full movement right close to where they are now?
Well, the driveways that are close, that are within the splitter islands, they would be right in, right out, but they also have driveways to the north that would still allow full access. And even if for some reason you can't make that turn, if you want to go south, you come out back here on the church, you go through the roundabout, you go this way. It's a much safer maneuver to go around the roundabout than try to make a left turn out into live traffic. That's why I said, any of these driveways, you go through the roundabout, you can get to any direction without having to make basically a left turn. Basically a right turn out of the driveway through the roundabout and continue on.
You're gonna restrict left turns coming out of the Sunoco then,
I'm sorry, sir, name,
Ed
please.
Swigert?
Most likely the lower driveway would probably, the left turn would be restricted out of the lower driveway. The northern driveway could still potentially have left turns out. Like I said, if somebody wants to go north, they can come out the driveway, go through the roundabout and head north. They can also come out the driveway on Church and make a left, go around the roundabout to go north. So they
Is
have,
there a barrier in there to keep them from turning left?
there will be these islands in here called splitter islands. Those are manual type curves, so they will actually restrict that movement. That's the purpose within the roundabout where you begin to deflect traffic to put those islands to keep people from making those turns. And again, you want to keep driveways. You want to keep driveways as far as possible away from the center of the roundabout too. Yes, sir.
I talked to you before about this, and you said 272 in this township doesn't warrant double lane roundabout.
Correct.
Why not?
The volumes aren't high enough.
Well, how many volumes must you have to get a double lane?
We don't meet the volume warrant.
You mean we can't ask for it and get it?
No, because PennDOT, and I'll let Will jump in on this one here a little bit. PennDOT's not a big fan of multi-lane roundabouts. And we talked about this before. And the fact is, with a multi-lane roundabout, you have a lot more side swipe crashes. It's mainly trucks come up, they want to use both lanes. So if you have 2 lanes going around, you have somebody in the outside lane, a truck comes up and they cheat, they don't want to drive over the center island the way they're supposed to with the rear wheels. They pinch over and they basically crush the guy next to them.
And school buses, if they
Same
have,
thing, a single lane, one vehicle goes through.
if they have to go up on the concrete, like you had said, that's what it's designed for, to go up on the concrete. So if the school bus is going up on the school, on the center of concrete, and some of the kids happen to fly across the center aisle of the school bus and get hurt, who's paying for the damages?
This is designed such that school buses do not have to mount on the center median. Look at this plan here, this is
But
basically
you're
here.
only talking 20 feet, that's what you told me before.
That's what I'm saying here. This
A
is,
full-length school bus cannot go around a 20-foot
And I'll make, I'll look at this here. This is the design vehicle. This is an over the road 53-foot trailer with a storage cab. And it's showing you-
Okay, answer the question, who's paying for it? You or the state? Because why should the township pay for it? If you designing this, you won't let us put in a double lane.
There's no need for a school bus to go over the center median. They can make that turn within the pavement itself. There's no reason for them to do it based on their wheelbase.
PennDOT would not approve a roundabout that requires, at least under their current standards, they would not approve a roundabout that requires school bus to not be.
A double lane, they're not gonna do that.
No, but
They're not
generally,
under 1 and 222, going north at 645. Or
the
662.
volumes there. just a little bit, and, that also means PennDOT splits up the state into different districts. And we're here in Lancaster County, we're part of District 8. When you get up to 222, it's District 5, which is a different district. So they have been in favor of putting in multi-lane roundabouts on 222. The challenge with it, with going with the multi-lane roundabout is the analysis that we did showed that after 20 years from now, which is typically what PennDOT designs.
I'm not worried about 2041. We're worried
Mr.
about
Haas,
right
Mr.
now.
Haas, sir, could you let the engineer answer the question, please?
Well, I'll be brief with it. Basically, PennDOT would prefer not to over design and construct additional pavement if 20 years out from now, they're showing that it wouldn't be necessary, which is.
And again, the design vehicle can handle the bus. If you look at the wheelbase of a tractor trailer truck versus the wheelbase of a bus, this is the extreme situation
But they're
here.
not
And you-
standard. You don't understand that, okay?
I'm not, what do you mean not standard?
If you have a king cab in a truck,
Like
like
this.
this 53 footer,
Like this?
I didn't look at your,
Well, I'll invite you to come up here and look, and this actually shows the path of making a right turn for every
and
particular
you want
movement.
everybody to drive up on the center concrete.
Oh, here, no one's actually on the median on this. They're all within the lane.
I think he's talking about that internal lane. He don't think he needs the concrete.
Yeah,
He needs
you
that
were
internal.
only talking that only
Paper.
20-foot blacktop. And then you want them to go up on the center concrete.
Again, on oversized loads, that's why it's designed such that if the rear wheels of a tractor trailer have to do that, that's why it's designed such with that apron. It's not designed such that they don't, it's not a straight through shot. The idea is to deflect them through there.
Well, why must you put a truck in that position, tractor trailer, loaded with stone, concrete or whatever it is? Why must you put that in?
We're not. If you look at this exhibit, you can see again, 53-foot trailer over the road, whole king cab, seeming like you make these turns. But wide enough that they can.
It's gonna come south in 272, it's gonna go into Rangestown. So
Yeah.
you're gonna come south in 222 and go all the way around that. And
Making a left turn, the rear left of the trailer will jump the curve there. And it'll be designed, it's.
I have
You
pictures,
probably
I have
seen
plenty of
another
pictures if
video.
you wanna see it.
But that's how they're designed. That's the purpose of the design of that internal concrete apron.
If you make it wide enough so a truck can navigate the blacktop without adding the curve, cars will travel around it out at a high rate of speed and it presents other safety issues.
Are you gonna do another survey?
When you say survey,
You did one in October during the pandemic. Are you gonna do another one?
we did our counts after PennDOT officially acknowledged that the pandemic, the counts could be conducted after Labor Day. So our counts are done in
Well,
October.
My,
So
my counts and your counts are totally different.
I understand that.
I also did a study out there in that section.
like I said, I can share you. We actually do video. So I have everything on video. It's not my sheets, it's video. You can watch it. Like I said.
John, how many engineers are on staff at Route 2?
How
How many,
read?
excuse me, how many engineers are on staff at Route 2?
Maybe
Roughly
100.
100 engineers. How many engineers are on staff at Kittleson?
About 350.
How many, roughly, how many years has Kittleson been doing this?
We've been designing roundabouts since the 70s.
Okay. So my question is this, how many roundabouts roughly have they been involved in designing? I mean, ballpark, more than 100, more than
In the
1,000,
thousands.
in the thousands. In the thousands.
That's why we brought him on our team, Marcy, because again, our exposures were maybe a dozen.
Okay,
Again, we want to bring the experts in, national experts. These folks, his bosses have developed the standards and guidelines that are used in the country. So it's, you know,
so with that level of experience, with PennDOT's experience, and there are thousands of engineers across the state that are evaluating this, I would be confident in the traffic counts from our engineering staff, because your professional engineering stamp are on those prints and those recommendations that go to PennDOT, are they not? Your professional engineering stamps are on those, correct? So I would put confidence in those numbers.
Why is New Jersey taking them out then? Can you tell me that?
I can't answer that.
Can you tell me that?
And again, New Jersey has circles. These are roundabouts. It's two different things. Well,
Yeah, generally, the circles that were constructed in New Jersey on the way to the shore and all operate very differently than a modern roundabout does in terms of the size and where you can bring the roundabout as opposed to within.
Okay, thank you. Wesley, a little louder, sorry, can't hear you.
Sorry, Township resident, and I work for Summers Trucking. Your islands going into your circle, are they tapered or are they like the ones in Luzerne County? Because the ones in Luzerne have a straight up and down edge, and makes it complicated to get a 60-foot trailer through with the wall when they flat.
We haven't gotten to that stage of design with it since we're looking at just preliminary concept, but given the amount of oversized overweight loads that go through here, we probably would not recommend to vertical curve within the splitter island. Also on the approach to the splitter island, when you're first entering it, it'll be a 3-foot offset, kind of creating a funnel. And as you get closer to the roundabout, that curve gets closer to the pavement parking line. But yeah, I agree that we would recommend an angle curve within the sections.
Because no sense.
most of the splitter islands are all slant curve, correct? All
Yeah,
model
most of
curves.
that.
Because I struggle to get some oversized loads into some of them warehouses because the curves are straight up and down, right, going into the circle. And then we have to go in the circle to make the turn.
That's why I think, as part of our analysis, we pulled the information from PennDOT, and, like I said, I was really surprised at the amount of permitting, again, for, you guys, primarily the modular homes, and, there's a lot of contractors moving equipment north and south up here. Grain trucks east and west are more weight related than size related. But again, that's part of what needs to go into the design. We can't look at it with blinders and just assume that's not happening. All those numbers, and PennDOT only has a 2-year record, so that's all the information we can get. But I felt it's pretty consistent year by year what goes on up and down there.
Will, quick question to follow up on Wesley's. So they would be similar in terms of how they're tapered to the ones on 222 that just installed?
Yes.
Okay.
PennDOT's been kind of adopting the standard for roundabout curves as they've been implementing more and more across the state. And within the truck apron, it's a very flat curve. It's a foot wide. It raises 3 inches over that foot. So it allows for vehicles when they do have to traverse the truck apron in the center to jump and be on the truck apron a little easier. At the splitter island is a little bit more abrupt of an angled curve there, but it's not the flush curve that can cause a tire to blow out or anything.
I believe that apron is about 1% cross flow.
Yeah.
So again, it's 1%, so it doesn't cause the load shift. I mean, that's the purpose. It's a much lower. A normal roadway is a 2% crown. So this is 1%, so it's half. So if you can't imagine what 1% is. 2% of the normal road has a roadway crown where it's low. That's typically 2%. So this is a 1%, so it's half of what a typical roadway length is.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you. Ryan Miller, Four Seasons Produce. Just 2 questions, just from my understanding. The engineering study that you did to determine the number of oversized loads that you had, weight and length, was that from the video feed that you guys looked at?
No,
or
it
how
was-
did you determine that?
We got actually from PennDOT's their special permit office.
Okay.
I think it's APRS, APRAS. Anyone that gets a permit, they keep track of that stuff. So it tells us the day, the time, where it's going, where it's from, the size of it. for the two-way trip, one-way trip, so it was a wealth of information we got, but what we tried to pull from there was length of the load, width of the load, was it a recurring load? I don't think I've seen anything for 4 seasons, I mean, they're all standard.
No, we're all standard.
I mean, summer was.
Yeah, summer has.
Right.
And we do.
So again, we were trying to determine what that length was, again, that was the 85-foot length, yeah, that's what we were designing for, so again, this actually shows, you can see how this actually is, it's going straight, how the rear wheels go over the middle apron, so that's designed to do that.
And then the second question I had is around notification signage. So we get a lot of inbound carriers that basically all 48 states almost, and some of them have never seen a roundabout before. Some of them haven't seen a traffic light. Are we gonna put signage all the way down 272 closer to Brownstown? So we'll have some folks get off the Brownstown exit and head north. If we put signage out just coming off the turnpike when you get on 272 to notify these inbound carriers that a roundabout's coming, this is how you access it.
Not really, because roundabouts are becoming more and more, I'll say, the norm at intersections. I mean, there is a pretty detailed type of signage package of advanced signing, and it will explain, you know, it's really localized signing for the roundabout. We're not doing advanced notification, you know, back at the turnpike of Brownstown, there's a roundabout. Because again, it's designed to facilitate those vehicles through there. So there's nothing that would have to cause them that are restricted, they couldn't go through. Yeah,
No, I'm not worried about the restriction of going through there. They'll be able to clear it. I'm really confident that it's just notifying people coming up that there's something new and slow down, be cautious, get ready. Because you're gonna have guys hauling through here that have never seen a roundabout. They're gonna lock it up and go, I don't know what to do. And they're gonna be in the right lane, trying to merge into the center lane or vice versa. So I just think some advanced signage might be prudent.
It's probably similar to like down in Everett, the DDI, divergent diving that went in there. I mean, that was brand new. I mean, that was brand new to Lancaster. I mean, to basically central Pennsylvania. There's one Shrewsbury, there's a couple others, but again, that's brand new. And they put up some variable message signs, I think, when they first opened it. So again, that type of treatment to put up here, you know, new traffic pattern ahead, you know, put them up just so people get acclimated. You know, this is a road where there's a lot of commuter traffic on a daily basis. So it takes a few times to go through there, and you know, you put advanced message up there. But again, the signage, most part for the roundabout is, again, it's single lane, so it's not really involved signing like some up in Luzerne County where they got multiple lanes and they have like signage on. I mean, they have some larger type of interstate type signing. And again, that's, I don't see that we're gonna have that type of signing here, but more localized type.
Yeah, localized signs that would start with probably about a max a quarter of a mile. Yeah, so,
There'll be something that'll say.
yeah.
When they get the DDI down there, get complaints that they're not sure what to do down there, if they come up an effort, or they always just come up.
Not much, because our, like I said, the carriers for us, they get off at Brownstown and they go up here at the turnpike exit. So yeah, we don't put- I know a lot of my drivers, just when they're in their personal vehicles, so I'm not sure what to do.
I mean, to be honest with you, PennDOT actually has things online when roundabouts start coming in, you know, how to drive them. It's part of the driver's training manual now. They have videos of, you know, how to drive through it. You know, there's a lot of elderly population that aren't familiar, so they try to get enough of their social media and different blasts out there to help educate people to get on and learn, you know, what to do when you come to a roundabout. What's your rights and what are you supposed to do? Like, you know, just to show what to do if you're driving a truck. So there are great resources PennDOT's put out there to try to educate people. So.
Sorry, Steve Grable. Hey, John, what's the center island gonna look like?
You say the center, the brown part or the green part?
Well, I would call it the green part. Is it raised? Is it
Yes.
gonna be soil and palm trees or what?
We're gonna put your statue there. That's all. Or how to get to the golf course or something.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
It would, I don't think we're that far into, yeah. We're not that far into the design, but again, something, if there's any plantings, there's nothing over 36, 42 inches. You don't want to obstruct site distance out there. It is curved. It's, you know, some sort of grass feature. If we get limited, some, you know, by bituminous paving, less water runoff, you know, it's green for a reason to have something like that. In the reach time, neighbors might, you know, they get out there, they plant flowers, they do stuff like that there. They make it look, it's a nice entry point too. Sure. Not too serious to do so. You know, the other part that's in the brown, you know, there was discussion, well, is that concrete or what is it? That's going to be concrete. You can do different treatments or stamped concrete. I think if you got on the lids, look at the ones they put down there, they put some stamped concrete in down there. So again, you can fancy them up, make them look pretty. Again, it just adds to the cost. You can put dye in the concrete to make them look like red brick. They can stamp them. You know, so it depends how aesthetically pleasing you want it, or keep it as gray concrete.
This might be a question for the township. During construction, what's going to keep the traffic from cutting through Bunker Hill, Cardinal, and Blue Jay Drive and going to Denver?
Sir, name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank
I live
you.
on Cardinal Drive.
Thank you.
What are they going to do for construction, you know, to keep traffic cutting through there now to keep the light?
Well, again, I'm not gonna say tricky. It's tricky to build something like this. So again, it's an operation where the signal, there may be a temporary signal where they have to shift traffic over to the east side, maintain traffic flow there, and they have flagging during the day. So there's probably several stages of how this is done. But again, part of their construction, they have to be off the road typically in the morning. They can't be out there working from say 7 in the morning till 9. And then again, the afternoon from 3 to 6, they'd have to open up. They couldn't do any type of flagging. So PennDOT puts certain restrictions on the permits when they build these things so that during those commuting hours, traffic can continue to flow, you know, the best as it can through the intersection.
I mean, just regular traffic, car traffic, I mean, cutting through there. If you have flagmen or something down there, they're gonna cut through the development. And it's a residential development with no sidewalks, kids are out riding bicycles there.
Well, I think that's something, as we put together the maintenance section of traffic plan, we look at those types of things. Is there something we need to do? Maybe put a restriction that, you know, it's one way, it can't be two ways, so we avoid people trying to cut through to get there. But, you know, it's like human nature. I mean, somebody doesn't want to sit there, they're gonna find a shortcut. And again, it's usually, I'll say it's the locals that always live in the area that know the shortcuts to do what they need to do. So it's, you know, most people follow their GPSs if they're going straight or east or west. You know, I live in East Petersburg, and trust me, I hear so many people cutting through, they don't want to go through the square to cut through the neighborhoods, but police get out there and they find out, these are the same people live in the neighborhood, they were doing all the cut through and driving up these streets fast. So it's always seems like it's the local people that are doing these shortcuts versus the people that aren't from the area going north and south. Because if you're going north and south, which again, 60% of the traffic is doing, there's no advantage really to cut through the neighborhood. So
I know the township's gonna resurface all those roads in there this summer, and it's not gonna take all that traffic. Right?
Like John said, it's one of those things we're gonna have to take a close look at in terms of all the surrounding roads, in terms of how this is the traffic flow is gonna get affected during construction. It's something we have to look at.
I'm concerned with.
It's a very valid point. It's just we don't have the data in front of us right now to answer that properly.
Something to look at though.
Yes, I completely agree. Thank you.
back in the corner.
It's where are you gonna start slowing the traffic for the circle? How far out do you need to cut it back to 45?
Generally, right as you're entering the splitter islands on 272, say coming from the south, the first turn there is designed, has a couple of reversing curves as you're approaching the roundabout. And that's kind of what we refer to as the influence area of the intersection. So the vehicles slow as they're entering there. So you're going from about 45 to less than 25 miles per hour as you're entering the roundabout. So it's within that 150 to 200 feet in advance of the intersection where it's slowing.
Would there be advisory speed limit signs advanced? There's usually an advanced roundabout sign.
Yeah.
So there would be a smaller, like a yellow advisory speed limit. As you're approaching there, to go down to 25, and then as you go through there, like I said, the normal speeds through there is you at 12 to 15 mile an hour. You'd like to have people go through there.
45 isn't 45. I live close to that intersection and there by the diner and the traffic light on Turks Road, they're going through there 50, 55. And I don't know if they're gonna get slowed down until they get to the circle.
Oh, I mean, I always say that, that speeding is typically an enforcement issue. You can petition PennDOT to look at the roadway to see if they determine if the speed limit is adequate. They'll come out and they'll do a speed study on it, and they usually take what's called the 85th percentile speed limit. So they record vehicles go through there and they determine what that 85th percentile is, and they go plus or minus 5 mile an hour from there. That's how they post the roadway. But the township really has no control over that. It's a PennDOT road, so they would be the ones that would dictate it. Now, as part of this design coming in and what we're trying to accomplish here, they may look at it and they may look for a reduction coming into it. So again, that's something as we go through the design and we get into this, we say, hey, you know, they're traveling pretty fast through here. We want to slow them down as they come through here. Is there any possibility of a certain segment coming from the north that speed limit could be reduced maybe down to 40? So again, that's all part of the process here. But there's a lot of steps that go on in between, you know, from where we were a year ago to 2 years down the road from here. But good question. All right, we give you, sorry.
Oscar Sippler. Just to clear something up for me, I know you said it's gonna take about what, 3 years to get everything to start. Does that include construction? Or how long from the time the first thing moves a piece of dirt till it's done?
I mean, it's about a 3-year process for permitting
So
because
just permitting, but once you start digging something or moving something from start to finish, from the time it starts inconveniencing the community to make it better, I think make it better, to the time it's done and we can breathe easy and drive through it, how long does that take?
well, I guess with the construction seasons, it's probably, you know, there's certain work that can be done outside the roadway that is not going to interfere, but as they're working on it, you know, you have a construction season, mainly depending on the weather from April to October, November. So that's your window really of getting paving done, do things like that. So like what you said, a year and a half possibly, it's probably 2 construction seasons to completely do everything. I mean, you build it, you come in, you do the final wearing course the second year, you got curbing to put in, sidewalks, drainage, lighting, signs. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but the main bulk of it is you try to get done probably in 1 construction season, and then come back and do a lot of the ancillary type of stuff, you know, outside and that can be done over off season. You know, street lighting putting up, you can put, you know, heating blankets, retarder in, concrete, to put sidewalks in. So there's certain things you can do off season, but paving and all that pretty much falls from April till October.
So about 2 years.
2 years probably to be safe, to be honest with you. Let me go. Let me get back in with person. I saw somebody, yes, sir.
In your traffic volume study, Greg Burkle, in your traffic volume study, in the peak hours of the day, did you look at where the volume is coming from, or is it in all 4 directions?
We looked all 4 directions, and when we counted the peak hour, the highest hour in the afternoon, there's roughly 2,000 cars that go through the intersection. We looked at all approaches, we looked at every turning movement, and what we do is we count that data and we do it over a certain time. We do it from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, so that's the time period we count. And we collect that data at 15-minute intervals, and what we do is we take the highest 4 15-minute consecutive intervals to determine what the highest hour of the traffic is for all the approaches coming in and out. So again, that peak hour that comes through there between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock is a total of 2,000 vehicles. So that's all right turns, left turns, straight movements on all 4 approaches. That's right turn on reds, U-turns, whatever. Every possible movement was counted in 2,000 vehicles at peak for that highest hour in the afternoon. The afternoon is the highest hour.
Okay, what I'm trying to get at is, say you have a lot of volume coming out. of the building. You have a lot of volume on 272. The flow of traffic going through that circle, everybody's gonna have to yield, which is the way it's supposed to work. But if you have a high volume on 272, the flow of traffic coming out of Denver isn't gonna be able to flow out of there.
That's correct. I mean, they have to yield the right of way to the folks that are in the roundabout. So again, if you're coming from the north, south, east, or west, once you're in the roundabout, just to give you an idea on volumes. Going, and this is our 2041, this is projected on the 2041, our PMP. Going northbound, straight through 577 cars per vehicles, I'll say. Coming south the other way is 510. So it's a pretty even balance of traffic north and south in the afternoon. East to west, you know, if you're going east, we got 110 left turns, 173 straights, and 114 right. So you're talking almost 400 cars coming east on Church. Likewise, again, going west, you know, it's a lot lower. You're dealing with probably about 400. You got 270 straight, you got 80 left, 30 right. So again, it's mainly, you know, coming from Denver area, close to 400. You know, north and south. You know, northbound west to go into Denver is 105, 113. So you're dealing with 6, 7, almost 800 cars coming north. So that's what I'm saying. It's A lot of traffic going through there. And again, the roundabout, the analysis to determine the queues, the levels of service, their delays are all based on, that speed going through or 10 to, 12 to 15 mile an hour through there. So it's not assuming you're going 45 mile an hour through there. They're getting more cars through there. So the residual queues, how long somebody has to wait for a gap for somebody there, that's all part of the analysis and the formulas that come up that we determine what the queues are back.
But you said earlier, people are not willing to wait, what was it, 190 seconds for a green light? They're impatient. So they're gonna ride somebody's bumper, go to that roundabout, so nobody else can sneak in between.
Well, it's designed such as a single lane, so you're not going to have the ability for somebody to be a sneaker.
So they're gonna sit there and wait anyway.
Well, you sit there and you wait for a gap. Again, if somebody's coming through there, there's a certain gap. You don't need a large gap to enter in the traffic stream as they're coming around there. If somebody's coming around, turn signal on or not, they're in the roundabout, or they go straight, or they go in, through the roundabout. There's a gap, people pull into this. It's like the zipper. It's zip up.
That's the way it's supposed to work, yes.
Yeah. And again, over time, it's one of those things. It's something new. There's a learning curve. I've been up watching the one up in Rockerty Road. Again, the volumes aren't as high, but again, the same thing. There's certain people come up there and they come there and they stop. They're not familiar with what they do. I mean, a yield sign technically means you yield the right of way or you stop. I mean, people on 222, they get on yield, they think they got the right of way. That's not. So again, the yield sign is a yield sign. You stop and you yield the right of way. Yeah, I'm not saying this thing's going to flow where every car is never going to have stop queues. I mean, there are queues of people that are going to have to wait to get through there. But again, this is, your highest, you probably have 2 high hours out of 24 hours where traffic is at that type of peak.
Where do you gather the information as far as the traffic flow of 2041? When you first started this, you said we were looking at this in 2017, and here it's 2021, and you did it. And in that 5-year period, your traffic queue lengths were off, and here we're now looking for 20 years out. Where are we how are we projecting the 20-year mark?
We're actually using PennDOT. Every year PennDOT comes out with growth rates throughout the entire state. They do it for every county. They do it for urbanized areas, for rural areas. The Bureau of Statistics comes out with information every July or August. I think it's July or August, they come out with new rates. Lately, rates have been decreasing. I mean, growth hasn't occurred in the state like it was, let's say, back in late 90s, early 2000s. And I think right now we're at about 0.7% per year growth is what we're looking at traffic-wise. They actually have set traffic counting stations on certain road rates. So they'll look at 272, they look at 222, and they actually count cars continuously out there. And they determine what those volumes are. And they look at the historic data that develop these rates. So they have a bunch of planners and scientists and people look at these numbers and they come up with these growth rates. And that's pretty much the standard that we use every year to project traffic out.
My other question is the separate right-hand turn lanes.
Yes.
Okay. On high volume times of the day, we have traffic flowing on what I say the inner side, right turn lane. And people coming through the roundabout. Again, it should be a zipper effect. Peak hours, what were the right turn volumes versus straight through?
If you look at, I'll say this direction. Again, those also, they have a yield. So again, they have to yield to somebody coming in there.
Impatient people.
I hear you. I mean, to give you an idea, northbound, if you got 577 people going straight versus 113 turning right. Again, this is a 1 hour volume. So you say, if there's 60 minutes in an hour, you're looking at maybe every minute, every 30 seconds, 35 seconds, a car making a right turn. So if you kind of break it down to, 113, 120 cars an hour, you're 1 to 2 cars making that turn
Okay.
in a minute.
With that volume, what volume do you have coming from Denver, and what volume do you have from southbound 272 that is making a left turn into Reamstown?
That southbound left turn is 34. So there's only 34 cars that actually come south and turn left to go towards Reamstown. Coming from Denver, 173. So you're talking probably like three minutes, so every 20 seconds or so. If you consider continuous flow, average flow over that time, that's the type of volume you're talking about. Yes, sir.
Dave Lutz.
Piggybacking on Greg's question here, the traffic coming from Denver out to the intersection here has been a mess for years already, just because of the way the turn lanes are designed. With the amount of traffic coming from Denver, including school buses, feed trucks from Gayman's and Stevens Feed Mill, you've got Henry Schein, you've got Denver Cold Storage coming out there. Is there any consideration to put a right-hand turn lane there to get traffic out onto 222, come out 272 heading toward Ephrata without having to sit there? Because you're going to back up for tractor trailer school buses if they can't get into the turning circle.
Yeah, again, go through the analysis. I think when you look at this, the result in the queue was long enough that would result in the need for that type of, I mean, you can always add those things, but again, you take up more real estate, but is it really needed?
My question is, if you have a big vehicle, let's just use one of the school buses, for instance, 50 feet, I get out into the initial turning circle. I can get out of the north, the traffic coming from the northbound, but I want to get and head toward Adamstown. I can't continue until traffic's clear for me coming from Lancaster. Can traffic get around me to turn right? To go around me? I'm coming from Denver.
Sure. If you want to go north,
and I want to go north.
right, you're in the roundabout.
I'm in the roundabout, but I can't complete the roundabout because traffic's coming northbound from Lancaster. I can't complete it because traffic's coming that way. Can traffic get behind me to go toward Everett?
But again, the reasoning behind it, once you're in the roundabout, you have the right of way. So people coming up north really have to yield to you. So once you're in the roundabout, you should have the right of way all the way through. You don't have to stop for them people to come on there. They have to basically stop and yield for you. So once you're in the roundabout, theoretically, you have the right of way to continue.
My argument is it's a lot of large vehicles coming out of Denver, more than coming out of Reevestown. getting
Oh, sure.
into the turning circle.
When we do the analysis of the roundabouts, we obviously look at the percentage of trucks and large vehicles going through. And we look at the queue lengths in advance of the roundabout during that peak hour. And it factors in, when it's looking at the queue length, it's factoring the percentage of larger vehicles. So it's not just assuming it's like a 20-foot passenger car for every single one. It factors it in by the percentage of heavier vehicles to give you what the queue length would be for.
Yes. Part of our traffic counts too, we classified passenger cars, what was a single unit type of truck, like a box truck, I'll say, a school bus, and then a WB67. So we were able to classify, it so we know exactly what those percentages are. So when Will plugs them in, it takes all that into account.
A question for you.
Oh,
Gary Hodge, anyhow. You're gonna have a curbing on the outside, and you're gonna have lights on the outside and a walkway on the outside.
Generally the direction that will be recommended.
All the way around the outside of the field.
that's what the orange is actually the pedestrian past the sidewalks. Correct.
So how high is the curb gonna be on the outside?
It'll be 8-inch curb standard per weight.
And how close is the lights gonna be to the concrete curbing?
We would generally place the pole for the light behind the sidewalk, and it would have a mast arm over. That's one thing in particular, especially with the number of oversized loads that we have. On this corridor, we would definitely want to look at light placement and sign placement as we get further into design to make sure that those loads aren't hitting any of the loads aren't hitting any of those new objects going in.
I drove up to the one single lane roundabout. 772, one in the Lidditz. I took a lot of pictures and I measured a lot of stuff out. And I asked the gentleman here, the center concrete is designed for vehicles to go up on, to get up on.
Yes.
Now, I have a picture of the light post and curbing here, which.
Again, that wasn't our design. We don't really know what the design trucks going into
I'm
there.
just asking this gentleman here, he just told me what it is.
we're talking about this design here based on the design of the vehicles
Okay,
here.
and your lights are gonna be where, and your curbing is gonna be where?
They're gonna be behind the sidewalk, so these orange lines back behind here is where the lighting will be.
Behind the side, behind your sidewalk.
It's, you figure you have an 8-inch curb, you probably have a 2 to 3 foot grass strip with a 5 foot sidewalk, so you're probably 8 feet minimum back from the face of curb.
Okay, that's fine. How wide is the blacktop for the vehicle?
It varies. It varies. You have to show me where I can scale and show you, but it varies through the entire intersection, what the width is. The minimum width,
How can it vary?
as you're coming in,
Explain to me why it's gonna vary. If it's gonna be 20 feet wide, and then there's some feet in the middle that you're gonna go up on top.
It varies because while it's 20 feet in the circulatory road in the roundabout, the entry, the road, the lanes coming to it are only 15 feet wide. So we have a variable width as we're getting to that entry because it widens to get to that 20-foot width. So there are points that have a fixed width, but it does vary a lot as you're entering and exiting the roundabout.
these areas right here, wider than they are back here, and as you're coming through, there's a swing, and naturally has to be wider to get you around.
And as we run the truck turning templates, when we're looking at it, we're looking at that alignment to make sure that the larger vehicles can enter the roundabout, but at the same time, making sure that it's not creating too fast or an opportunity for passenger vehicles to travel too fast through the roundabout. So we can manage speeds.
And how wide your 7 feet gonna be?
It varies as well with the current concept that we've shown. Generally, we design them to be around the 12-foot width, but because because the number of oversized loads that need to travel straight from 272, we're creating an oblong shape with it.
That's roughly 60 by 40. Where the inch drive, the apron itself is 85 feet. The out of the roundabout is 150-ish, 155, somewhere in that. So the outermost diameter is 155 feet, 80 on the inside and 40 by 60 oblong on the green part.
I think the important thing to add here is these are conceptual drawings for conceptual design. This is not design build. These are not finalized prints. Okay, so those types of questions are deep, extremely detail related questions until we get those actual designs completed.
Well, when you do a set of plan, how many sheets is a set of plan for a roundabout? How many?
Just for the roadway plans,
No, electrical, signing.
oh,
everything.
yeah, once you add in cross sections and all, it's probably 300 sheets.
So, yeah, so again, we have one sheet here, there's 300 pages that go into detail. Let me jump back here, this gentleman here. Yes, sir. Yes.
All right, just making sure. My name is Harold Rogers. I live here in Ramsdale. Last time, meeting I was at, was a different drawing. And I brought up questions because I used to work on a factory and dealt with Summers Trucking and a few others, where we had taken wide loads through there on angle trade, on 45-degree angles, whatever. I see you've addressed that, but the one thing I haven't heard in this meeting is if we have a fire at Two Cousins Pizza and I need to get a truck out of Reamstown Fire Hall to get to the Two Cousins, how do I get it there at the peak hours?
Well,
And has any thought been brought to that?
I'll say at least experience wise with emergency, bells and whistles are on, you're coming, people do one of two things. They either freeze, they stop and don't know what to do, or else they continue to move. Either they're not paying attention or they know they keep moving, because the truck's behind them, get out of the way. I've seen where they come up here and basically go opposing the wrong traffic to make that quick turn rather than going around. I mean, it's designed such that they can make that maneuver, but again, they're gonna do whatever they can to get to where they need to go. So if they come up here and they see the traffic, come up here, the lights are on, people are stopped, they're gonna go directly across here. That's what they're gonna do. I mean, I've seen that, they could potentially go that way. It's, it comes down to training too, the drivers. As the drivers, you implement something like this, you're educating you know, drivers and equipment of what needs to be done when they get to the intersection, if there is emergency to, you know, there's no preemption, so it's not like now with the light, the preemption kicks it in, everything goes red except for the direction the truck's coming in, and, you know, technically or theoretically it's supposed to clear it out, but even with preemption, you know, people, they hear a truck coming or an ambulance or something, they freeze, they just stop, they don't want to move, and, you know, the trucks are going out in the other lane, trying to get through there, and they're doing what they can, and, you know, I talked to our fire chief, and he says, hey, sometimes he's glad when people just stop. You know, you don't have to worry, you know, you can kind of work your way around there, but, you know, it's just one of those things, I think they learn how to react to get through there. You know, it's designed such that, you know, definitely from this direction here, I can see them making that move, so rather than going around.
So what you're saying is we have to learn how to get to the twos before, I mean, to dozens before the first round.
Well, you know, like anything else.
The team's owner sitting there.
I know.
You better raise your insurance. is what I guess.
You have a sprinkler system. They have a sprinkler system, so they're good. You have a sprinkler system.
It's a wood frame structure, right? Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Did you have your hand up? Okay, someone else in the back, yes, sir.
Brian Wise, at the end of the day, when the last construction trailer is pulled out, who's gonna take ownership of this? You know, the stormwater, I think I've asked you this before, John, the stormwater, the lights, any damage to the infrastructure, anything like that?
Well, the roadway itself is going to be PennDOT. It's no different than if you would build the intersection as a four-way with curb and stormwater. PennDOT doesn't have any maintenance responsibility in stormwater facilities. As a project like that, they're going to make the township be the permittee. They're going to have to maintain if, you know, if a pipe cracks or subsides, or, you know, corrugated metal pipe rust over years and an inlet top breaks or something like that, there, it's up to the municipality. PennDOT sees anything like curbing as a stormwater feature, you know, all that they push off onto the municipality. So even with this type of design, your stormwater piping, your inlets, I mean, that's why I use piping that's designed for 50, 75 years. So you put, you know, materials in there are going to last a long time. But if there's an issue with the stormwater, you know, if an inlet's clogged or something, it's going to be up to the township to come out and unclog it, just like they would typically leave filled up. So, you know, the grass features, you know, it's going to be a feature I think that probably the township would want to maintain just to make it look nice, keep the grass cut. The lighting is going to fall under the municipality. I don't know if you have like a blanket where you pay a per fixture cost, or it's a per fixture. So it'd be no different than that, a street light somewhere else that, you know, they'd be LED fixtures and they would pay a flat rate PPL. Yeah, PPL. So again, those types of features, but the roadway itself and the main part of it would again be a PennDOT. And again, that's why PennDOT looks at the review. You know, they want to make sure the materials, the design is designed such to facilitate, you know, because cars don't wear a road out. It's trucks and heavy traffic. So again, when we start with what's called an easel, it's equivalent single axle loading. They look at the amount of axle loadings that go on a roadway in the concrete. So the concrete's design is such how thick that needs to be, the classic concrete, the type of rebar that goes in there. All that goes into the design based on the initial parts of the traffic. So again, the design, you know, instead of being 6 inches, it may be 8 inches thick on an apron. So again, all that goes into the design, and that's all scrutinized by PennDOT through the whole process.
I'll throw the last one, I'll call it out. In your rain garden, in your stormwater, a sinkhole opens up, and you're right at the borderline of the roundabout itself and the neighboring property. Then whose responsibility?
Mr. Cream, I mean,
That's why there's attorneys.
Our solicitors, I've seen these
Here's the
where
answer.
they open up the state highway and everybody just points their fingers at each other. And they say, it's a stormwater issue from this property.
Brian, you know that.
I do.
The fingers go like this.
That's why you buy insurance,
I don't
Brian.
want to pay for it.
That's why you buy insurance.
So, yeah, that's the question. We had one in West Hempfield, it opened right on the curb in there, and everyone stood there and they're like, who's fixing it? You know, put a steel plate over it for about a year, and then, you know, finally come around, the insurance comes through and fix it.
And honestly, every sinkhole I've been involved in, it goes to mediation, everybody chips in. It's because it's so hard to pinpoint a cause.
Like Palmyra.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it would happen to be at where the Cobra head light is and it pulls a light, you know, I mean, you said what, they're 20 grand?
No, I'm not talking mast arm for a signal, not the light pole. No, I'm talking about mast arm. You know, again, depending for these would actually be longer. They're probably 40, 50 feet long. They're up 30 some $1,000 a piece. So, and again, a footing on something like that goes down 16, 18 feet in ground, so it's.
They like stuff like that.
I like that answer, George.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else back there that I did not? Has everyone had a chance to actually, all right, Mr. Hurst?
I'm convinced you guys, this isn't your first roundabout that you've done. On an average, how much more real estate does a roundabout take versus a signal intersection?
At this point, we have some rough calculations, but again, until we look at stormwater for both scenarios, I mean, we have some lines drawn on here to show right away that, and I understand, I know this is your property here, and you're probably the most impacted property on this corner for that. Again, that's something we have to look at. If you look at those other, it extends 500 feet each direction, so, we're taking right away on both sides of the road, clear out both sides, all four approaches. The object here was to kind of move this to a south. Again, to create the offset that we need for the roundabout for calming purposes, but again, there's a certain amount of real estate that's going to be needed, and that's yet to be determined at this point.
I had a print of the signal intersection and what you have here. I know it's all preliminary stuff, but I scaled off a little bit. It takes probably twice as much room
It does.
to do a roundabout as a signal.
Well, on your particular property, it does.
But,
Yeah,
I'm
it
gonna
does.
have the biggest impact on my property right there, and that's gonna devaluate that big time.
And again,
It's gonna
that's,
really infringe on, I'm concerned about that.
again, that's something that goes into the design. I mean, we have to deal with all the stakeholders and property owners, and that's all part of the process, so. I mean, so we kind of have to look at the whole process, the whole project as a whole. Again, there's gonna be more impacts to some folks than other folks. That's just the nature of the game of doing this. Yeah, you are correct. There is a little more right away on this one versus the other one, but the other one has a lot more impact to properties. If you look at the Sunoco, you look at the pizza, you're taking away access. So again, right away, you're devaluing, all these properties, even, your property. If you're looking for another driveway or something out here, that's, you could have a driveway come over here opposite of Faust. And
We'll
that's
separate later.
right. Oh, here's the, let me explain what I was thinking on. All the folks that have interest in the properties around here, you come in to develop your property, and that's gonna make you look at this intersection. And they're gonna see the operation, that what it is, and they're gonna tell you to fix it, because it's frontage improvements. So they won't give you a permit until you mitigate the impacts at the intersection. So think of you're possibly not giving up land, you'll be compensated for land, but the benefit you'll get from having that improvement done, that wouldn't fall back onto you to do. Because that's considered a site frontage improvement. Mr. Cream? I was looking at my lawyer.
So if the township and PennDOT do this project, and it would be a joint project, they would have to acquire from each of the property owners the additional right of way or negotiate the changes to the access that John has described. Whereas it's a full motion access now, it could be a limited motion access after. All of that goes into valuing what the impact of the project is. The valuing is done by an appraiser that looks at the value of the property before and looks at the value of the property after, and the difference is called compensation. And there's various sources for that compensation. It could be township dollars, it could be PennDOT dollars, it could actually be federal dollars available to the township and PennDOT. But as John just pointed out, if, for example, you want to develop your property and PennDOT hasn't done anything and the township hasn't done anything, and PennDOT looks to you and says, this intersection needs to be improved in order for you to do what you want to do, you've got to pay for it, and nobody helps you with it. No township dollars, no state dollars, no federal dollars. So is one better than the other? Is one easier to swallow than the other? I don't know. You've got to make that determination. But I'm sure there are people in this room that have encountered that fact, that they've paid a traffic impact fee, they've paid roadway improvements, and they paid for all of that because they wanted to do something with their property. This is essentially the trio of governments doing something that may make it easier for you to develop your property, or for the existing property owners to remain there longer because you end up with better access and better traffic flow.
I think we talked the price tag. I mean, preliminarily, we looked at this $2.5 million either plan. So that's the magnitude of, again, preliminary cost and looking at what either of these improvements would cost. And again, when you get into right of ways, that number can really escalate quickly.
And there's one other point to make. When PennDOT does stormwater management, and there was a time when PennDOT didn't do stormwater management. When PennDOT does stormwater management, PennDOT does push the responsibility for the maintenance of stormwater management off on the township. When a developer develops his or her land and is required to put in stormwater management, PennDOT and the township push that maintenance off onto the developer. I represent a lot of townships, but I also represent a lot of developers. So I know that I have some developer clients who have had to take on the maintenance responsibility for 50-year-old storm sewers because they are now connected to, and not just shed all of that responsibility for a 50-year-old pipe onto my guy because he connected to it.
Nice. Yeah, I did not mention that, but that's a great point. They push back the township as the permittee, and then of course they get a reciprocation agreement with the property owners that they'll maintain that perpetuity. Yes, sir.
You mentioned several times how many of these you designed. Can you give us an idea of where we could see one of this style and this size in person? So I could take some of my trucks through, so I could see in reality what this looks like.
The 220, I mean,
I think,
I mean,
I think,
A single lane.
Yeah.
The same size.
I would recommend take a trip. The reason I was passing my phone around is I actually had a meeting up in Allentown last week, and I went through the two circles they had put in. They have a single there and they have the double. I have done that trip. In the last 5 years, I was doing that trip probably 4 times a week for various reasons, for business. And I lived through the construction of the 222 circles as they were building them. And I can tell you that the improvement there, I wish they had done that before I started driving north to Allentown 5 years ago. It is, and I know the time scale, it cut my personal trip up into that area easily by 15, 20 minutes. It's just amazing.
But I don't think you're comparing apples to apples. The amount of traffic you're talking about and what the restrictions were.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just referring to that 222 corridor with all those trucks.
But I don't think the traffic volumes are similar. I don't think, are you gonna say we're gonna save 15 minutes traffic, 15 minutes a day going through?
I'm referring to leaving Denver and going to Allentown where I had to be in Allentown.
So
Door to door.
Which one of the circles? I think there's 3 up there.
There's 3 of them. They've completed, they're just about complete with that final 3rd one. So I would just drive up there.
Which one would be similar to this one?
the single lane one.
The single lane one, yeah, that they put in. There's a 2-lane one up there. That's the one by the Sheets.
662.
Right.
Is that 662 up there? Yeah, that's the one by Sheets. That's way too large.
I mean, as part of the problem, I know we talked.
The one in Lidditz is, it's just way too small.
Yeah,
That's a very small.
Yeah, that's, I mean, even up, if you get up to Hershey on 322, I think that might be somewhat
Yeah,
representative.
it's a little bit less.
I hope that's not representative.
I mean, volume is
It's not,
east
it's
from
not
west.
viable. It's not viable for truck traffic. we can't go through there. Get routed around it. So if you're saying that's viable, that's a bad thing.
Well, you say PennDOT will issue permits, they won't send you through there, okay?
Yeah.
Well, again, that's part of when we design these things, PennDOT, the amount of people that review this and check these things out, because again, knowing the amount of permits that are issued in this area, that's gonna be under the microscope, that's gonna be very critical.
John mentioned it earlier, it's volume wise, it's less, but 241 in Rockerby, a little south of Lebanon. We did a similar shape with the truck apron to accommodate oversized overweight loads there, because there's a lot of mobile home construction that goes through. Again, it is less than the number of permits that you guys have here. But there are quite a few permits that go through that one a year, so we did a very similar design with making the truck apron larger on northbound, southbound 241 to accommodate larger vehicles.
I'm thinking when trucks pull out of your yard and they come up to go north on 272, how do they make the turn? I mean, they make the turn to go north on 272. I mean, they have to swing pretty wide to make that right turn. Yeah, for guard spot. I mean, so they're swinging out in the opposing lane, I'm assuming, and
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, so again, that's kind of why you look at the design here, such that trying to accommodate those lanes to get through here. So it's, I mean, that's what we're trying to get away from.
It's one lane.
That's what I'm saying, it's one lane, but if you're swinging out to make a turn and you're crossing over your adjacent lane and the south mile lane, make that turn. I mean, that intersection radius should actually be larger, so you don't have to do that swing out. So again, that's trying to take all that into consideration when we're doing this, because we're starting with a clean sheet of paper here, so we can basically design it such that we can accommodate, your types of trucks, the mobile home trucks that come through here. To do that, so this is
You're also designing for the perfect driver or the average.
There we go. I won't answer that, but these, I'll tell you, these software that we use is called AutoTurn. And they are very conservative. So they're more of a, I'll say, not a lazy driver, but not your top-notch Teamster driver. We've actually gone out to places and we've actually had trucks and buses at certain locations. I know of a place where they rented buses to come out to show that buses could go through there. And we set cones up and we kind of marked out what the simulation showed on the computer, put cones there, and then brought a driver out. We were working on the Fulton Bank expansion in Lancaster City, right on the square. And Highway was bringing in beams. So we had to get down there and figure out how the heck we're going to get these beams off of King Street into the alleyway. So down by Telus. So we actually brought a truck out. Again, they brought one of their, I'll say, better drivers out. They brought the truck down, fully loaded, came up King Street, pulled up the alleyway, backed up the back alleyway where it was to get in there, and then make the right turn out. And then they came down Orange Street, made the right turn to come down the back alleyway with the smaller trucks there. So we did simulation, and everyone's like, oh, it's not going to work. So we said, let's bring a truck out. So we got the city, we shut traffic down, we brought the truck around, stopped them, backed them in there, and he was either a super good driver or just the simulation is quite accurate. Again, I don't know if we can design for a perfect one that divides every ball. We'd have the zipper working fine if everybody knew what a yield sign was. Everybody who made the speed limit signs. No turn on the roadways with truck restrictions. Yeah, that's, I don't know how many signs and they put up. People, it's the person behind the wheel needs to have some responsibility too.
So does that give you an idea on the circles then?
I would take appreciate the thoughts.
Yeah, we kind of looked into it, but again, trying to find one that is exactly the same as this is kind of difficult because every intersection has different characteristics of types of traffic, volumes, distribution, turns. So it's kind of hard to just say, yeah, here's one exactly like it. Go look at that because I know. So let's ask for some examples, and we kind of looked and came up with some, but you're not going to find it's not like the glass slipper. It's going to fit exactly as it does here.
And I'll be very upfront with the community. I spent a lot of time on the road. I was very skeptical of the Divergent Diamond. I was very skeptical of those circles that they were putting up on 222 when they were doing the construction. I was driving through there that often that this is never going to work. They work. After they were completed, they do work well. But I'll admit, I personally was very skeptical while they were constructing.
We have one over in Lime Spring in East Hemphill Township, back where Winus Candy is. of Hempland and Running Pump Road. Again, it was the same thing. It was slated originally to be a traffic signal, but again, it needed turn lanes in every direction. We had a railroad crossing back to Whistler. You know, so there was some other physical constraints there and just created a large footprint. So the roundabout was much better. And trust me, there's a ton of traffic back and forth on Hempland as well as Running Pump Road with all the industries that go out to Centerville Road and along Running Pump with, Twizzler being there. Yeah, you know, there's our produce place, there's a bunch of places back there that just have a ton of truck traffic going through there. And, you know, you gotta look at it. I don't see curbs being jumped. There's some marks out there. Again, you're gonna have an inexperienced driver coming in, doesn't know where he's coming in, and he's trying to figure out where he's going, or else he's not using the right GPS and he's going someplace where he shouldn't be going. But for the most part, I mean, you know, the concern of the concrete cracking and stuff like that there, I mean, that all goes into account when you're designing these things, and the type of traffic and type of loadings you're looking to put on it.
Last question, you talked about pedestrians being safer because you only have to cross one lane. So you're assuming the pedestrians will stop on those islands in the middle of the traffic that's coming around them? Is that what?
It provides a refuge is what it does. I mean, the idea of the signalized intersections, you're aware, you push the button, it comes up, it gives you 7 seconds to walk, and all of a sudden starts flashing. And it bases on 3 feet per second to get across there. So you got to go 60, 70 feet. And what that does too is it also takes away time. So if you have pedestrians crossing, they hit that button, it has to guarantee them a certain amount of time. So if you don't have that much traffic demand going east to west, or, you know, of people crossing, it's going to hold that light and hold them people to get them all the way across the intersection, which again takes away green time from going north to south. So as I said before, when you're dealing with 120-second, 125-second long cycle length, you start adding a few pedestrian calls that come in there. That's taking time away from it. Every time someone comes up and wants to make a left turn with a protected arrow, you know, they may get 10 seconds of green time, and then it goes yellow red. So you got 3 seconds of yellow and 2 of all red. So you got 5 seconds. So you figure every time it goes through a cycle, you know, you might have 20, 25, 30 seconds of time that is not green time for people to use. So that's considered what's called lost time. Again, without a signal being there in the roundabout, you know, theoretically, you got people moving all the time. They're yielding to the folks coming in. Again, it has a much higher capacity ratio to get people through. It slows people down too. It's, you know, that's what people like. It slows people down. It's a nice entry feature, you know, into an area, and it slows people down. Again, there's a learning curve, just like anything else. You know, these flashing yellow arrows, I'm sure you've seen those. I mean, when they first came out, you know, people were yelling high heavens that these are terrible, blah, 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 you know, and we're fixing one over down on Pleasant Valley Road on 322 by Walmart, to revise the timings on that. But, you know, people didn't know, what do I do with a flashing yellow arrow? Do I go, do I stop? You know, can I only go on the green or what? So, yeah, anything new that gets introduced is there's a certain learning curve. In Pennsylvania, I'll say is usually behind. I mean, Will can always, he can always talk to this. I mean, roundabouts have been Maryland and other areas for years. But Pennsylvania is usually lagging behind on certain things. These flashing yellows just came in. The roundabouts are relatively new. I'll say about 10, 15 years probably.
In this area.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Yep. Right, thank you,
And
everyone.
again, if anyone wants to come up here, look at these diagrams and ask questions on these here, I can explain at least what they are. So
Let me, I just have a couple of quick announcements as we wrap up here. We do have our normal supervisors meeting on Thursday, June 2nd at 7 p.m. That will be held here at the Williamstown Fire Company. I also would like to send or express a personal thank you to the Williamstown Volunteer Fire Company for hosting and allowing us to use the facilities tonight. Thank you for that. I need a motion to adjourn, and then that will give time after the meeting for public just to go out and take a look at those. Okay, gentlemen?
I'll make that motion.
We have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for coming.